Hi, this is Kim Wood, and welcome to my podcast, Hang On to Your Daydreams. Today, my special guest is Thor Ramsey, a Christian comedian, actor, screenplay writer, and author. He wrote the comedy feature film Church People and will star in the Puppets of Pigeon Forge, which he also wrote, and his filming begins September 24th. Hi, Thor. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
First of all, I got to find out, how did you get your name, Thor? Is that your real
I
name?
I just picked it. I just picked it.
Oh,
So
you
it's
picked it. So it's not.
something I did it when I started stand up in
Uh-huh.
1987. My sister had a friend that named her little boy Thor. I thought that's really cool, and so I was reinventing myself. You know, you're young, you're reinventing yourself from years of whatever. But my last name was Sides, Sides.
Uh-huh.
So I couldn't go by Thor Sides because then I would be a pun as a comedian. Please welcome Thor Sides.
Right.
Get it? Get it? Thing. So I'm like, so across, I had a little studio apartment, a one-room studio apartment, and across the street was Ramsey Pontiac. And I thought, Ramsey goes with everything. So I just picked a random last name, Thor Ramsey, and I changed it legally. So when people ask me, is that your real name? I could just say, yeah. And, uh, and then my wife, I met my wife, you know, doing stand up, and then I told her, I'm thinking about going back to my real name. And she says, her name was Dinika,
Okay.
Dinika, which is Dutch, and no one can pronounce it or spell it. And so she liked Thor and Dinika, but I told her, within a week, after I met her, I said, this is my real name, and I think I'm going to go back to it. And she goes, you can do whatever you want. I'm still going to call you Thor because, it was when it was Thor and Dinika, it's like I could step in front and take the bullet. Thor, that kind of thing. Did your parents hate you? That type of thing, whatever. Where's your hammer? All the different jokes. And but if it was Jeff Denica, then like I'd have to just kill my wife because there she
Yeah.
is, take out massacre with the name, stuff. But so I just kept it, and so we got married, and then she took my family last name, Sides. So we have two different last
So
names, and yeah,
Thor Ramsey and Mrs. Sides.
yeah, there you go. Thor Ramsey and Mrs. Sides. That'll be my next book.
Sounds like a
Yeah.
good one. Speaking of books, you've got a new book out called The
I
Art
got
of
have a new
Atheist.
have called The Honest Atheist. It's a novel. Just got released, so I'm excited about that. It's about a stand-up comedian, believe it or not, Sam
Oh,
Sight.
where'd you get that idea?
Yeah, well, you write what you know. You know what they say. You write what you know. So I happen to know a stand-up comedian, so I thought I'd make him a character. But I've written a couple. So I actually have five books on the same family history of this character. The first one got released a year ago called the End Times Comedy Show, and then I just released the second one called The Honest Atheist. And in this one, he becomes friends with basically the man that's predecessor to all the new atheists. When they were big back in the early 2000s. That's when
Huh?
this takes place. So he becomes best friends with this guy, but this guy's an honest atheist, meaning this: he takes the premise of atheism to its logical conclusion, which is so he's basically the man who made nihilism popular, which is basically if we come from nothing, then nothing has meaning, zero.
Good
And
Lord.
yeah, so he writes that in his book. And now Sam's nephew, who was homeschooled in a Christian um, home, raised in a Christian home, homeschooled, his freshman year of college, becomes an atheist through the influence of this guy's book. But then he takes the guy's premise to its logical conclusion. And I don't want to give that away, but it starts out kind of lighthearted and everything, and then turns to a really dark turn in the
I
book.
like dark.
So, because that's the premise of the book is, if you really take atheism to its logical conclusion, then you have to say nothing matters. So don't get
Right.
angry about anything. Don't complain about anything. You can't say anything for sure. You can't really, with any justification, complain about anyone's morality. You can't complain about anything in life being unfair. You can't complain about anything because nothing ultimately matters. You're going to die, and that's going to be it. So shut up about everything. And that's really what this guy's premise is in terms of the book. Now, he says that to fellow atheists. He's,
Hmm.
um, his challenge to fellow atheists is live out the premise of atheism. Don't say that, brain, monitoring the brain to determine that, uh, comfort becomes a good, or, whatever. It's just all arbitrary. So pleasure becomes the more moral arbiter of noise. There's no
Yeah,
basis for
I mean,
anything.
if
Yeah.
that one old lady, which was it in the 80s? Her and her two sons were murdered.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Madeline
remember?
Mary O'Hare. Yeah, Madeline Mary
Yeah,
O'Hare. Yeah, she was the
yeah,
first famous atheist.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. She
yeah.
was
What?
big. She's the lady who got uh, prayer at a public school.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah, yeah. She took, yeah, her. So her one son. Well, I don't know how many sons she has,
I remember
but her
too.
son, her one son became a Christian, an evangelical Christian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's from everything I know, yeah, she had two sons. The one son became a Christian and basically repudiated everything she stood for.
Hmm.
So it's always so comical.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
comical in itself.
that was drama in itself,
Yeah,
just there and
yeah.
the whole thing. Yeah, I know, I know.
Yeah.
What about the movie Church People? I've seen
Church
it.
people.
I've
Okay,
seen it.
well,
It's great.
it's been out for a few years now.
Yes,
So
it has. That's your last movie you did?
that's the last movie I did. We have
Okay.
another one. We're shooting another one in September, called The Puppets of Pigeon Forge, which is a family movie.
Awesome.
Has puppets in it. You can't tell from the title. Um, but puppets come to life behind a church in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. So there's the premise.
I
Um,
love puppets.
yeah.
We used puppets in improv when we were learning improv.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, we had a
That's
puppet
interesting.
and we did the puppet, and then we had to put the puppet away and be the character.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
So
it
you had to
was
be you had to be the character that you were doing, making
with
the
the
puppet.
puppet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so we get
interesting.
up there, we talk with our little puppets, and then Norm Holly was our teacher at Second City, and he said, "Okay, now put the puppets away and just be the puppet."
Be the
So
puppet.
just yeah,
Yeah.
be the puppet,
That's our tagline for the movie. Be the puppet.
be the puppet.
Yeah. But Church People came out of basically I wish it would have done better, because it actually turned out to be a pretty good movie. But
Good, and
but
I think
it was released during COVID, and it was just a disastrous release. And I will say that now. Unfortunately, it was. But hopefully one day will be a cult following movie, one of those.
oh,
But
you know what? I've been telling my mom about it. I've been telling all my friends about it. I said, you need to get on there and
yeah,
see it. I said, um, because I know so many people go to these large, and it's about a large sensational church, if anybody
yes,
doesn't
yeah,
know. And it's about coming back to teaching the
the
true
basics,
meaning,
the basics.
the
Yeah,
basics. You're
get back to
exactly
the
right.
gospel. Yeah.
And you're the lead in it. You're the I want to say dry man, but you're not really dry. You're
Well,
the brain. You got the common sense.
what I did learn being in that movie, even though I wrote the script, is that and it went, yeah, it went through revisions. Oh yeah, it was my original idea. And so it's a journey. But so the original idea came from, and I was working on this script kind of about a youth pastor in crisis, and that's all it was. It was just a slice of life type of film. And then a friend of mine called me, says, "You're not going to believe what this gigantic mega church is doing for their Friday service." Like, what? He goes, "They're doing a crucifixion." I'm like, "There's no way. I don't believe you." He goes, I'm on the right on their website. So I check it out. Well, here's what happened. I go on their website, and it turns out they were only doing a passion play, but it was going to be so graphic that they had all these warnings about if you're squeamish at the sight of blood, you might want to, that type of thing. And so they had all like a real long warning. And so I realized the American evangelical church has become so used to gimmicks. Like, we're giving away 5 large screen TVs this Easter, or a big car. Well, I will say this: everything we put in the movie, churches did. The pastor who dresses up in a Superman costume to deliver a message. The church they actually used motorcycles, jump a ramp, and do a
Good heavens.
flip to demonstrate the power of the Holy Spirit that propels you from one hill in life to the next. we just use BMX bikes because we, couldn't afford the motorcycles. But that's it. So I was going through. I was meeting with the guy. There was a guy named Josh. I think he's still there. Josh Nadler at Sony Pictures, and Josh was giving me notes on all my rewrites. And at one point, he said, "What you really need now to bring the story together, to bring all the characters together, is a big idea. You got the slice of life thing. I like the characters and stuff, but you need a big idea to bring them together." Okay, I don't know what big idea I'm looking for. But as soon as my friend said that, I'm like, I've got my big idea.
Crucifixion.
A big, gigantic mega church that's going to crucify someone on Good Friday to draw people for the Good Friday service. Although there's the premise.
I can't believe people. I mean, I can understand how a comic would come up with something like this. I can't believe somebody actually was.
Wow.
You know,
just report. And then you find out, it's like, well, they've been doing this in Mexico for years. People actually crucified, and they've been doing
for
that.
real crucifixion.
Yeah, they've been doing it. Now they do smaller, they do like nails. So they don't do the big spikes.
They don't do spikes. Yeah.
They don't do spikes, but they do nails. But they're literally.
And if they go through the hand instead of the wrist.
Yeah, they go through the hand.
I don't know why, but I just had this belief that Christ was crucified through the wrist, and I don't know why. Yeah, and I think that does more damage. Maybe that's why I'm believing that.
Well, the bone would hold up, but I don't know. But the point is,
I
can't imagine it's any less. It's still painful.
It's painful.
Still,
yeah. And they broke his
kind
legs and everything.
Ridiculous thing to do. And and then everything else we put in the movie churches, and then some of the things we had this collage of all these things that Pastor Skip in the movie did. We ended up not putting it in. It was a collage of different sermon series he did, where he had he had a bunch of cows on stage, and one he had a big gigantic swimming pool, and he was dressed in a scuba diving gear and all. Come to find out later, some of this stuff we were making up, churches didn't actually doing that stuff. So what we're satirizing later then became reality, but we were just satirizing the lengths people go to. It's all good intentions to draw people in to hear the message, but they're really they're muddling the message.
It all up.
Their method is muddling the message is the idea. And that was kind of the theme of the movie.
Well, yeah, they think if they get 100 people in there, maybe they can grab one, or something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous trying to go to everybody.
But,
yeah.
So for the most part, it's a cringe-free movie for the most part. Now, I wish I had, in hindsight, done a couple things differently. But there were earlier drafts I liked better. I will say that, because once you get money involved, it's really funny how a film works. People are like, we want to do something outside the box, something I've never seen before. Your script. And then all of a sudden, somebody wants to put money and make it. And that's okay. Let's put everything back inside the box now, because there's money involved, and we don't want to offend anybody. And
I know. I've written a sitcom. It's called Grandma's World. It's about a grandmother that gets custody of her 15-year-old granddaughter, and how it turns her life upside down. And I'm having a reading on it tonight, and to get some feedback, and hopefully I can independently produce it. So that's what I'm looking for. So, but yeah,
I like the premise. I like the premise a lot.
Yeah.
Now, is it a half hour?
Half hour sitcom.
Okay.
Half hour sitcom, and I've written a pilot. I've got I don't know what you call it, ideas for the next, outlines for the next few,
episodes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is early in the morning for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's 10:30 here too, so.
I have to get up at 7 and have enough coffee.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of what I'm doing. Tell me about your stand-up. Where you do stand-up at?
Well, my stand-up, I started stand-up in '87 in a little club in Des Moines, Iowa, called Robbie's Comedy Corner.
Lived in Iowa.
Yeah, and then the big club was they were closed down for a while because there was a fire, and so that's when Robbie's Comedy Corner opened up. But then the Spaghetti Works had a comedy club.
Okay.
The back of the restaurant. So I basically started there. And then, then within a year, this is in 1987, within a year, I was working full time stand-up, just as
Good
an
job.
MC, traveling all over the country,
Mm-hmm.
doing one-nighters, doing week-long clubs, and then the comedy circuit. You just work your way up from uh, MC to feature act or middle act to headliner, and so I just kept working there. And then when my wife and I, after we met, we moved to Chicago sometime in the early '90s. Then we were living in Chicago because I was just about to move to San Francisco when I met my wife. Because San Francisco at that time was a really hot comedy city,
Okay.
and they had the International San Francisco Comedy Competition, which was a really big deal, at least in the minds of comedians at that time. And then, but I met her. She was from the Midwest, so we kind of compromised. And she was from Michigan, so we both, moved to Chicago, and loved Chicago at that time. I don't know how well it's doing now,
You still
but
like the weather.
yeah. So, well, I think doesn't sound like they're run very well politically there right now. Um, so they probably weren't run politically well at the time I was there, but it was different. It was just a different time and a different vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But then we moved to California. Um, so we were trying to move to New York. I used to have a manager in New York, and so we were trying to move to New York. And my wife couldn't get a job and transfer there, but she was able to get a job in California. So we figured, well, let's just, either coast is good for entertainment. So we moved out
Yeah.
to California.
Yeah,
And
I'm just a few hours away, and I know I lose out on a lot of jobs because I'm not a local. I'm like,
yeah, so, and that was the point in our lives when we both really returned. We came back to Christ, and so kind of changed everything career wise.
uh-huh.
And I transitioned from clubs to I started working for Chuck Colson's Prison Fellowship. We've
Okay.
done prisons all around the country. And
Oh, how
all these
interesting.
different. It was like a variety show. We'd bring in former athletes and singers and comedians and people who did variety things.
Goodness gracious, they get a better show than I do.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's well, that was, and so we'd go into the yard and put on a show, and so yeah, I really went from I'm trying to think of, so I went from bars to clubs to prisons, and then that's how I got prepared for youth events. Yeah, so I used to say, but
Now,
and then I transitioned it. I didn't even know that churches did any kind of events like comedy or anything at that time. So I
just
get
got more
people all the
into it.
time, and people are like, "What are you?" I'm like, "You're a Christian comedian." Like, isn't that an oxymoron? I'm like, oh wow, okay. Christians can't laugh or be involved in the arts, so okay, different kind of mentality. But um, yeah, so I transitioned into doing Christian events at music festivals and things like that. So um, yeah, that lasted. 30 years of my lifespan. And now
Wow,
I've
that's
I've
awesome.
really transitioned more into the writing. Now I spend more time writing, and uh, I've written 20 some screenplays now, and um, well, I've got 5 novels written, 2 published now, so
Okay.
still working on the other ones too, as a
And you
as
hang
you're
out at
writing. Go
and you
ahead.
hang out at Starbucks.
This is my office. Yeah, so you're inviting me in my office here.
I used to hang out at Starbucks at Second City. There's a Starbucks right down there. You just grab that cup and let's go. I get to work. Okay, doing some stand up. When people ask me how do I get my routine?
Material. Yes.
How do you get yours?
Well, you say something and then somebody laughs at it and you just make a mental note, or you notice something. It just varies, like the other day, I have a 6-year-old son, and we go to the park a lot. And, so I took out man, I wish I'd have had this way back in the day, but I took my phone out, recorded myself, and just put down my thoughts one after the other. Put down a thought, stop it, and then and put down another thought. So I've got the whole, I don't even know what it is right now. I mean, I couldn't tell you the routine, but I think this would make a good routine. And so I just put down my thoughts and it started with this idea of, when you're at the park with your son and you want to play with them, you're playing with them, all of a sudden every kid at the park wants to be part of your game, and you become this, you become the play leader of five, or six, or seven kids at the park, and you can't turn to them and go, you're an adult. You can't turn and go, I don't want to play with you. So, that's kind of that started the thinking because it's like, I just want to be with my son and now I got to, care for all you little, don't you kids have parents? But, so I just sat down and I recorded that. And then some other thoughts started, springing up. And so that's the idea. You get the idea, what you think might be funny, you just put it down. And then you got to go up in front of an audience and the audience will tell you if it's funny or not. But
Yeah,
generally,
that's the scary
that's
part.
what I find even in screenwriting, because my forte is I write comedies primarily, and and I've done a lot of collaborations with people, and we're working on a project right now for a guy who does this particular character. He's got a large social media following. He does this particular character, and so it's him, myself, and a couple other. So there's like four of us working on the script. First time I've worked with four people.
Oh, wow, that's hard.
But no, it's actually fun. But now, well,
Did you get in the
somebody has
writer's room and do it?
somebody has to be their head writer. You basically have to have that. You have to have your roles down. So it's like, if it comes to me and I spearhead it, then by default I'm the head writer, which is what I prefer. But as you're writing and working with these people, like the one guy I've worked with before in a project, we've worked over a year together on this series, and we're working on our sixth episode of this series. We just decided to write it, but I've said to him before, because his background's not comedy, but I've said to him before as we're writing, when you say something and the group laughs, write down exactly what you just said. Don't try to nurse it. Don't try to tweak it because what you just said made them laugh. That's what you go with. And so even in public, if you're, because I remember, I remember this joke from years ago. I was driving in a car with some other comedians, and somebody had brought something up about, I think it was China at the time. It was China again, and they were talking. It was a discussion on guns and gun
Yeah.
control and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And the guy was telling me his neighbor said, his neighbor had an AK-47 was the discussion, and he was asking his neighbor, what do you need an AK-47 for? And his neighbor said, well, if China shows up in my backyard, I'm going to be ready. And I said, my friend, I think if China shows up in your backyard, they won.
Exactly. Yeah, and I
So
feel the same way.
they laughed at that. So when I said it, they laughed. And so, all right, so I took it to the stage. This I had to do the setup differently. I can't say. So I'm driving over tonight with these comedians, and you got to do the setup differently. You got my next. I just said my next door neighbor's got an AK-47. I asked him.
Mm-hmm.
So you personalize it. But the reason that joke continued to work, um, and it works better when China's more of a villain in our culture. It works way better. But back then, I think it was Russia. I take that back. It was Russia back then because this was like late '80s, early '90s. So Russia was the villain, so to speak. So I think it was just Russia shows up in my backyard. I'm going to be ready. And then the climate changed. I could probably go back to Russia now.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but it's
Either
like,
one, really. Either one
whoever,
does it.
either one works. But
They're
the
both
point is,
aggressors.
they laughed at what I said, so I just took it up to the stage. But that's the idea. Sometimes you get an idea. I think this might be funny. And then sometimes you say something and somebody laughs and you go, boom. Now I just got to figure out how to take that to the stage. And this is what people don't realize because everyone, it's like people like, I know someone who's really funny and they might be funny in real life and they might be, but the art of stand up is learning how to take real life, something you say in real life that people laugh at. And then you got to take that context with you to the stage. And that's the art of stand up. How do you
And you
take
have
that?
to tell it in a way that'll make them laugh. You have to have your timing right. Because if you just go run through, oh, I had this next door neighbor and he had an AK-47 and, I asked him why, blah, blah, blah. That's not going to work. You've got to have your timing
Well,
down.
unless that becomes your style. The style becomes, I'm not going to wait for you to laugh. I'm just going to go on and keep talking. And then I think people might just start. That might be a good style today.
That might be. I don't
Yeah,
care. I don't care
yeah,
style. I'm just doing it.
yeah. That's exactly it. And I found this is like the less you care and stand up, the better.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I've just been doing 3 or 4 minute sets at a open
That's
mic here in town. And, I'm getting these little bitty pieces together, and someday I'll be able to put it together.
yeah.
But
Making people laugh consistently for 3 minutes is a long time. People
it
don't
seems
realize
like forever I'm up there. And then I look down,
the
oh, I was only there for 3 minutes.
the average television the average television spot used to be 6 minutes. 4 to 6 minutes is what you got when you did a television spot on a
Uh-huh.
on a national television show.
Uh-huh.
It's like, and here's a comedian with us tonight. You go out and it'll be 6 minutes.
I
People don't
know.
realize getting a tight 6 minute set together is
It
about
takes a while.
12 good jokes. Is really what it is. It's 12 good jokes. They're solid jokes, but streaming those together, putting them together, crafting that 6 minutes. It's like, I think it's best to do. Well, depends on what form of stand up you do. I was never a storyteller stand up. I was a set up punchline guy, so which is better for 6 minutes. But if you're a storyteller, you can really you can write a lot more material longer.
Yeah, I tell some stories. The problem with that is sometimes you got to watch your stories and make sure they're not too long and lose the interest.
Well, that's exactly it. The problem with storytellers is they take too long to get to a punchline.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
So you got to
the
boom,
average
boom,
thing,
boom.
like when I was in stand up, I used to tape my acts, and then I timed between each laugh because I got once you're around other comics, they start educating you. You educate each other. It's really a form of discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
But some comic will take you under his wings. Say, so here's the thing with your act right now, man. You got too long a space between your laughs. So you need to tighten it up. You need to add jokes in between. There needs to be 12 seconds. You need a laugh every 12 seconds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'll write that down.
And if you shoot for that, then you start, when you record your act and you listen to it, then you start going and you time it like,
You time it.
so many, what can I cut down to get closer? Or is there a joke I can tell in between? Like if there's 24 seconds till I get to this laugh, is there a joke it's going to tell in between that at least gets a little bit of a laugh? Because a lot of times you'll go 12 seconds and then you go big punch and then tag, tag, tag. So you're still getting laughs, but the tags are coming every 2 to 4 seconds. You get a big laugh, you gotta let them pause, let it breathe, and then you give a tag that gives another couple seconds, another tag, and then maybe a topper. You never know, but generally that's what I started learning too. Don't just tell the joke and get the laugh and then go on to the next one. What tags can you say you got them laughing? Now ride that wave. So that's what tags are, the little thing you say once it's in line with the joke you just said. Switch your thoughts at the end.
Uh-huh. So what's next for Thor Ramsey?
Well, we're shooting the Puppets of Pigeon Forge in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. In the middle of September.
I love that. That's out where my
October.
mom. That's where my mom lives in Knoxville. She loves to go. She loves. I
wrote
Pigeon
that.
Forge.
Brad Stein and I wrote that script together, and then we got it. The guy Brad and I wrote another script together that we really love, called the Revenge of Adam and Eve. I think it's the best script I've ever worked on. But a man came to him who had an idea. He said, "I've got an idea for this. I want to make a film. Here's the idea." And he came to Brad, and Brad, brought me in and said, so the guy paid us to write the script, and then we got paid to write it, and now it's being produced. And so
is he the one producing it?
No, he actually found funding for it.
Oh, cool. That's the hard part. Yeah, I've got to get funding for mine to do it.
Funding's the toughest part, but here's the thing about showbiz, whatever realm you're in, it's all about relationships. It really is. It's like the person. I've met writers now who say they get more work from other writers that they know than getting an agent or anything like that. Because one writer gets work, and then people are like, who else do you know? Especially if you're working on a sitcom or something, because generally they're written by teams.
Hmm.
It's not just one person. So they'll bring you in. If they know your work, they bring you in, and that's how you get more work.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. So that's what's next. If say somebody like me would like to apply for a role in your movie, or where are you gonna have that out for all my friends that
Well,
are out there looking to
yeah,
act?
that's well. You can check me out online at thorramsey.com. So it's
Mm-hmm.
THORRAMSEY, not SAY, not Ramsey, it's Ramsey.
And
But not that the last name means anything to me, Jeff Shines. But
it's Thor.
but yeah, the casting for the thing won't be through me. That'll be through an agent. But
Okay. Good.
you can go to the website and find out information about the book. And I really would appreciate some reviews on Amazon. We need to get those reviews going
Okay.
to
And the
get
name of the book again was
the Honest Atheist. So if you
The
look that up
Honest Atheist.
on Amazon or wherever fine books are sold, but Amazon's the easiest place to buy books these days.
Okay. Okay. Is it a quick read or is it a long read?
Oh no, it's like 175 pages. It's a
Oh,
short
well,
novel.
I can do that.
Yeah, it's a fun read. It's an easy read, primarily entertaining.
Well, thank you. I want to thank my guest today, Thor Ramsey. And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. And remember, hang on to those daydreams. And we'll see you next time, people. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.